Hey there, Braves fans. Welcome to another edition of State of the Braves. I'm your host, George McNair, and man, it is good to be back with you guys after the Braves have just swept the Mets. All feels right with the world anytime the Braves sweep the Mets, and man, those two losses to the Oakland Athletics feel like a lifetime ago. The Braves have obviously turned things around in a big way, winning 6 of their last 7 games, taking 2 out of 3 from the Arizona Diamondbacks, coming home and now sweeping the hated Mets, and doing so in a fashion of 4 straight comeback wins. This has felt much more like the 2021 and 2022 Braves. We know that a big identity of this team for quite a few years now has been their ability to never say die, to come back and beat up on other teams' bullpens. That has seemed to be lacking this season, even still with the Braves being successful up to this point. They have really turned it on these last 4 games, and it's just such a thrilling and fun way to play baseball when you feel like the team is going to fight in those last innings and has the firepower to be able to come back against obviously some good teams. The Mets are reeling at the same time. They've now lost 6 straight games, had lost 3 coming into this series, and the Braves exit this series 3.5 games up on Miami. They actually do not gain any games on Miami over this series because Miami has played well. Miami has kind of a lighter schedule right now, but beating up on some bad teams is, good teams should do that. So the Braves are still just 3.5 up on Miami, but they are now 8 full games up on Philadelphia and 8.5 games up on New York. New York falls to 4th place in the division at the moment, while the Braves now have the best record in the National League. So some really good things for the Braves. We're obviously coming out of this series feeling very good, as we should be. And I'm going to tell you guys, this might be a little bit of a longer podcast than usual. I have a good bit to share with you guys. Obviously feeling good, feeling positive, but just a lot of things I want to talk about today. So hopefully you guys will bear with me on that, and maybe you like that. I don't know. You can let me know in the comments. But again, that just gives me an opportunity to remind you guys, please listen on Spotify. You can listen on Apple Podcasts. And if you'd prefer to watch, you can find me over at YouTube at State of the Braves. And of course, subscribe there. That really helps me out. And it makes sure that you can get my content a little quicker by doing that. So just always appreciate you guys doing that. All right, so let's get into this, guys. I mean, the overall feel of this series is the Braves are, playing with foot on the gas mentality, more focused baseball, and just something seemed to click when Eddie Rosario hit that grand slam. It's like a more focused team, a team with more belief, more confidence, and everybody contributing. I mean, this series, if you start thinking about how the Braves won these 3 games, everybody played a part, especially in terms of the regulars out there. Everybody had some big hits and had some big moments. So just that makes it even more of a fun kind of series to watch when everybody's contributing. But I wanted to point out 3 particular guys who really played a big part in this series. And like I said, everybody did. I could have picked out a lot of names, but these are the 3 guys that kind of stood out to me. Austin Riley goes 8 for 13 in the series. Most of those were singles, but he had a home run in the 3rd game. But just looking, even before this series, looking much more like he was getting back into things and really starting to feel good with his swing again. So that is super encouraging with him in the middle of the lineup. Orlando Arcia, of course, with the huge home run in Game 3 to tie the game in the 9th. But he went 7 for 12 in the series with a walk, a double, a home run, 4 RBIs in the series. He was just a big part kind of in the middle of everything throughout the series. And then, of course, Michael Harris really starting to come out of it, I believe. He was 5 for 12 in the series with a big walk as well. Better at bats. Still striking out some, but 2 doubles, a monster home run, and 3 RBIs in the series. So I'm sure he's feeling really good about being in the middle of things as well, as he probably has felt like he hasn't been contributing much at all offensively for some time. And that has to be mentally difficult when you feel like you're kind of letting your guys down at the plate. He's not feeling like that right now. And I think, I'm going to get into it a little bit more here in this episode, but I think he's doing some things that are starting to turn his season around. So that is really, really good stuff. And I think if Harris begins hitting like we know he's capable of at the bottom of the lineup, this lineup is really, really scary for sure. So the Braves are playing focused baseball, whereas you look at the Mets over there, and this series was sloppy play and frustrated baseball from there into things. Again, 6 straight losses now. That's the longest losing streak they've had in a number of years in New York. And you could just see these little clues that their season's not going the way that they were hoping it was. Of course, guys, you know that the Mets are spending the most money of any team in baseball. They put millions upon millions of dollars into this team, $500+ million or something, maybe not that much, $300+ million on this team this season. And things are not going well. Again, 30-33 is their record. Their hitting coach got ejected in the first game of the series, just barking at the umpire. Multiple bad plays in the outfield. And then Alonso with that weird behavior, calling out Bryce Elder after he hit a home run off of him in game 1. Just a lot of odd things that I think is just indicative of a team that has not found its way. And frustration comes out in different ways with different guys, but you see some of that there. So let's go ahead and break down these games. I'm not going to spend the entire podcast just breaking down these games. I want to go into some analysis of some things I see. But as it was a fun series, let's just remember some of the things that went down. Game 1 is a little bit more of a straightforward game. So you have Elder versus Carrasco in game 1. The Braves end up coming back from a 4-1 deficit in this game. Remember, all 3 of these games were comeback victories for the Braves. So it actually started with the Braves scoring first. Ozzie Albies hit a solo home run to center field. I mentioned this. His left-handed swing is looking better and better, and a lot of his damage in the last 2 series have been from the left side. So that's a really good thing. Bryce Elder was actually pretty good in this game. Had, I think, a season high in strikeouts. Looked sharp except for 2 pitches, and he gave up 2 2-run home runs. In the same inning, the second one was to Pete Alonso, and this is when Alonso, after he hits the 2-run home run, he's in the dugout, and he's screaming back to Elder, throw it again, and everybody's like, what are you talking about? Like, Elder is the nicest, he just doesn't say anything to anyone. Elder, there would be no beef between Alonso and Elder at this point, as they've barely faced each other. It's just a really weird thing for Alonso to do. I've always thought of Alonso as a kind of odd dude anyways. And this just adds to that. I don't really like any of the Mets because they're Mets, but I particularly don't care for Alonso and McNeil are probably my 2 least favorite Mets, just because of how they behave on the field. But I do wonder if this lit a fire under the Braves. They definitely took note of it. Apparently Matzik was maybe doing some things back to the Mets. As you guys know, he's in the dugout a lot, even though he's not playing this year, and I love Matzik. He's always got a good sense of humor about some things. But I do wonder if this lit a fire under the Braves a little bit. They were down 4-1 at that point. And it was really not the home run that came through for the Braves in game 1, which is another nice thing to see. They string together quite a few hits in the 6th inning, including an RBI double from Sean Murphy and another one from Marcell Ozuna. And then you get a go-ahead RBI single from Arcia here. So all of that was good to see, them putting together these hits and these runs. And then after jumping ahead, the bullpen gives up no earned runs in this game. So a really good sign from the bullpen as they shut the Mets down and win game 1. So in game 2, you have Morton versus Scherzer. And again, the Braves come back after being down 4-1. Alonso goes down with a hit by pitch in the first inning Morton smoked him with a 96-mile-an-hour fastball to the wrist. Before that at bat, Alonso was booed pretty mercilessly by the Braves fans. Appreciate that, stepping up for Bryce Elder. And it was pretty clear by Morton's reaction that he did not intend to hit Alonso. Knowing Charlie Morton, who's one of the nicest guys in baseball, he's not looking to do that anyways, especially coming up and into the hand or the face, that sort of thing. And apparently, him and Alonso talked after the game and made nice. Honestly, I think Alonso generally, I want to go back to that. I actually think he's a decent guy, but just his behavior on the field has always been pretty weird to me. So anyways, they said some good things after the game. He didn't blame Morton. That could have become, a bigger deal, and it wasn't. So thankfully, it didn't end up in the Mets trying to get some retribution later in the game either. But Alonso goes down and comes out of that game and then also does not play in game 3 as well. So it was a pretty big moment for the series. Alvarez, the young Mets catcher, by the way, he can hit a fastball. He hit 3 home runs in this series, all off of fastball, so the Braves might want to take a note of that. He hit a second inning solo home run in this game off of Morton. And then in the 4th inning, the Braves come back a little bit, get 3 infield singles to score a run. And this is hilarious to me. This is basically the Mets all last year were infield singling the Braves to death. And, baseball is a funny game, and sometimes things can come back around to you. And that definitely happened on the Mets in this inning. Scherzer was, he must have been just thinking, what in the world? So ultimately, Arcia gets an infield single to bring in a run. Braves could have done more in that inning, but they at least get on the board there. So they're down 2-1 at that point, and then Tommy Pham ended up hitting a 2-run home run in the 5th off of Morton to put the Mets up 4-1. So the big blow in this game was probably from Sean Murphy. So he comes back in the bottom of the 5th and hits a 2-run home run off of Max Scherzer into the Mets bullpen. So that was awesome. Murphy, it's kind of interesting, how the Braves have obviously played the catching position with Ozuna hitting so well. He's getting almost all of the DH at bat. So you're really just seeing either Murphy or d'Arnaud in there. Not getting quite as many at bats, but both of them are hitting well right now, and it seems to be working out right now. So 4-3 at that point. 6th inning, Michael Harris comes up, and he had already gotten a bunt base hit in his first at bat. I actually really like that. As much as you're not going to see him bunting too much, it was like he had an early hit in the books, and it's like it relaxed him for the game. He gets an RBI double to tie the game here. Hustle double, and then Acuna comes up and singles him home to put the Braves up 5-4. But the game was not over at this point. Top of the 7th, Kirby Yates comes in. You guys know that Kirby Yates has not been exactly locked down in this season. He was not sharp in this one. He loads the bases with 1 out, and then a ball gets hit to the wall. Ronald Acuna makes a great leaping catch at the wall. If that had gotten over Acuna, it probably clears the bases. Instead, he only gives up a sac fly to tie the game instead, and then is able to get out of the inning. So the Braves basically survived that 7th inning. And then top of the 8th inning, Michael Harris makes a great leaping catch of his own to send the Braves to the bottom of the 8th. And then Harris comes up bottom of the 8th, 1 man on, and he launches a 2-run home run to center field. It's like a 440-some foot shot to center field. And that swing, right, guys, I mean, it's definitely been frustrating for Michael Harris this year, frustrating for fans to watch because we know the talent that this guy has. Some people calling for him to be sent down or that sort of thing. I think the Braves just have to run with him, and he's got to figure out, Chipper Jones had some great analysis in the 3rd game of the series, and basically he just said Michael Harris has to figure out what kind of hitter he is and, commit to that. And getting back to that left center field swing, he has just tremendous power when he stays on the baseball, and he definitely did it in the bottom of the 8th in game 2. That put the Braves up 7-5. They wouldn't look back. Mentor, interestingly enough, came in to get the save. because Iglesias had pitched 3 out of the last 4 games, and Minter's been really good lately. And, again, the bullpen has a pretty good day other than Yates, right? They end up only giving up 1 earned run in game 2. So the Braves take game 2 and another nice comeback win. All right, game 3, of course, guys, we're coming right off of game 3, and what a crazy game this was. One of the craziest games that the Braves have played probably in the last several seasons, especially when you think of the fact that Spencer Strider was going against Justin Verlander in this game. You're expecting a pitching duel, and it was anything but a pitching duel in this one. The game started, I told you guys, I was excited to watch this game, not only because of the matchup, but the guys in the booth, right? You had 4 of the Braves greats in the booth together: Chipper Jones, John Smoltz, Tom Glavine, and of course Frank Gore were all in the booth together having fun. And it was if you love the Braves and you grew up watching the Braves like I did, there's a ton of nostalgia to having all these guys in the booth. They actually called into Greg Maddux as well during the game. Just a lot of, going down memory lane, but also a lot of great analysis. I think especially, John Smoltz is not my absolute favorite in terms of being in the booth, but he has, I do think in terms of pitching, he has great analysis. He walked through some things, especially as you're watching Spencer Strider struggle. I think he had some really good points that he made. And then I could listen to Chipper Jones breakdown hitting all day long. This guy is not only a Hall of Famer and one of the Braves greats, of course, but he knows hitting, I think, better and understands it better than nearly anyone. And he really, man, I wish Chipper would be in the broadcast booth more often. Obviously, he doesn't need to do that. He's just happy living life. And of course, he is behind the scenes working with Braves hitters often, which is a huge benefit to the Braves. But he made some real good points, and I'll bring up some of those as I go through a little bit more. But just really fun to listen to these guys, especially some of their memories. If you didn't catch the game, I would really encourage you to go back, if you have MLB app, to go back and watch this game and watch the broadcast. They remembered when Chipper, in his very first game as a rookie, ran into Greg Maddux on a pop-up and just crushed Greg Maddux. And that's when they had Maddux on the phone in the booth. And it was, they're all just dying laughing. And I did not remember that moment. So that was really funny to watch. Then they also broke down Tom Glavine's only home run of his career, which barely got over the fence in old Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. My favorite part of that is they did a stat cast in which the ball would have fallen just to the warning track in Truist Park. It was only hit 88 miles an hour off the bat, which no home run ever gets hit over the fence at that low of a rate. But anyways, just a lot of funny stuff from those guys. So if you love the Braves, right, and especially if you grew up watching the Braves, this was a great moment for all 4 of these guys to be in the broadcast booth together. So anyways, it made it that much more special because of the type of game it was. Just a crazy game that turned into a slugfest. So it certainly didn't, well, it started good for the Braves, right? Bottom of the first, Riley hits a 2-run home run the opposite way. This was his 11th home run of the season. As much as Riley has turned things around average-wise, it's been a lot of singles. So it's really good to see him driving the ball a little bit more. And then in the same inning, d'Arnaud gets a single, and then Rosario hits a single, and you have this botched play in right field. Ball goes totally under the right fielder's glove, goes all the way to the wall. d'Arnaud's able to score, and I mentioned this already, but just another evidence of the Mets just not being into this series, it seems like, mentally, that is. So that being said, you got to give the Mets credit. Top of the second, they come back like a house on fire. The Mets get 5 hits off of Strider, which is really weird because Strider doesn't give up a lot of hits generally, right? So 5 hits in that inning, including the last hit was a grand slam by Brandon Nimmo. So Mets go up 5-3 at this point. They tag on another run in the third, so it's 6-3 at this point. In terms of Strider, this was his worst start of his career, gives up 8 earned runs. His command just simply was not there all game. The home run to Nimmo was a fastball right down the middle. And sometimes he'll get away with that. So his stuff was definitely playing down a little bit for some reason. I don't know if his spin rate was a little off or what, but the Mets were on his stuff more than you see most teams. Am I concerned by this? Not really. Obviously, if this were to continue over 2 or 3 or 4 starts, then you might, start raising your eyebrows that something's a little off. But I think this is just a particularly when I look at Strider, his history with the Mets, I think he probably was coming in either with a different game plan or maybe just less confidence or something changed against the Mets because generally they've given him a lot of trouble, fouling off a lot of balls, working him deep in counts. So maybe he was a little too aggressive in the strike zone or something. But he hung some sliders. That fastball that was hit for a home run from Nemo, it just was a little bit of a different Strider, to say the least, than we have usually seen. So I think it was probably a little bit more of a mental issue. Maybe there's some mechanical things he needs to clean up, but am I concerned with Strider? No, I'm not. I think he'll be incredibly motivated next time out. So let's see what he brings next time out. I think the Braves will probably be playing the Tigers at that point. So anyways, the Braves at this point in the game are down 6-3. They get 2 runs back in the third. Verlander struggling with his command, including a bases loaded walk to Acuna in that inning. So the benefit is the Braves really got Verlander's pitch count up. Obviously, we're also able to tag him for some runs before he came out of the game, and we're able to at least stay in the game at that point. Top of the fourth, Alvarez again can hit a fastball. This was his second home run of the series. 2-run homer. It just snuck over the wall in right center field. Kind of a weird home run. It almost looked like a pop-up, but the dude has some power for sure. Then Tonkin comes in for some long relief, and he wasn't super sharp. I believe this is his first appearance after coming off the injured list. So he gave up 1 run in the 5th and then another one in the 6th off of another Alvarez home run. Again, a fastball. Let's stop throwing this guy fastballs, please. In the middle of that, in the bottom of the 5th, Ozuna also hit a solo home run, squeaked it over the wall, but nonetheless hit a home run. I did notice he was running around the bases a little quicker before that ball got over the wall. So thank you, Marcel, for running on a questionable home run, and it did get over the wall. So he continues to hit pretty well. Had a good series as well, guys. Bottom of the 6th, Rosario added an RBI single. So at this point, the Braves are down 10-7. Right, just staying in the game. And again, after Tonkin went out, the bullpen really solidified. You actually had a pretty good outing from Jimenez. And so bottom of the 8th, Travis d'Arnaud comes up and hits a 2-run home run over the bullpen in left field. Now the Braves are down 10-9. All right, so now this sets up bottom of the 9th. Ozuna starts the inning, gets called out on a super questionable strike 3 call. Pretty frustrating, but at the same time, Arcia comes up after him and gets 1 or maybe even 2 favorable calls to keep him alive in the at-bat, and then ends up hitting a game-tying home run. So just huge clutch at-bat from Arcia. He's not the Braves' top home run guy. He does have good pop, but it's only his 5th home run of the year. But, man, this one was obviously huge. The place was going nuts. Again, just you tie the game 10-10. So much action in this game. All right, so top of the 10th, you get a huge shutdown inning from Iglesias. Remember, with the extra inning rule, you're starting with a runner at second. So it is tough to leave that guy at second base, but Iglesias was able to do that. And then bottom of the 10th, unfortunately, the Braves are unable to move the runner from second over early. Austin Riley popped out. So Ozzie ends up coming up with 2 outs, 2 runners on, and then he hits a 3-run walk-off homer. Ozzie at that point was the only Brave without a hit, and so it was just right for him to come up with that hit. Huge home run. Ozzie has been throughout his career pretty darn clutch in late inning situations, so really cool to see that. So, guys, I mean, man, this was one of the more fun games to watch, especially the late games, the late game heroics of the Braves. They end up scoring 7 unanswered runs against the Mets and send the Mets home packing. So how these games differed from what the Braves were doing in May. I mean, June obviously has started much better for the Braves than May. Um, and what are they doing differently? Well, I got a few things for you guys. So, the Braves in May were pretty silent in late inning games. I did a previous podcast where I was kind of bemoaning the fact that, the Braves were scoring a lot early, which is great, and it sets you up for some wins, but they were going silent late in the game. And that has definitely ended in a really positive way in June. They're scoring a lot of late inning runs, while the bullpen has been, while not spotless, has been a lot better in holding other teams down. So they're really dominating late inning games so far in June. And of course, we're not very far into June, but it's a really good thing that we're seeing. You're getting better at bats, just up and down the lineup. Guys are taking more walks. You're definitely seeing guys stay inside the baseball a lot more. I think that's been a team-wide effort. Some guys are doing it better than others, but I think generally speaking, that's allowing them. I mean, that plays a huge part in letting guys see the ball a little longer and recognizing balls and taking walks. So you're seeing that play out a bit more. And then, of course, you're getting a few key guys going again. You're getting Riley and Albies and Rosario, and of course Michael Harris hitting better. And there are no holes in the lineup right now, so the offense is going way better. I think the Braves have scored something like 8 runs, 6 runs, 7 runs, 13 runs, boom, 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 back to back. So the offense is feeling really good right now. And, I mentioned already, but the bullpen is stabilizing a little bit, and that has a huge role to play in just keeping games where they are and letting the Braves offense do its thing and come back in games. On the mental side of things, and I think this is really huge in baseball, the killer instinct for the Braves is also coming back. It's like, what do I mean by that? They are a more focused team. They are more confident. They're not making many mental mistakes or a lot of errors in the field. And why is that? Like I said, I think that Rosario grand slam was a huge shot in the arm. I think the Ozuna incident with him not running out of the box in Arizona, I think that woke up the team a little bit, not in a negative way, but just kind of an encouragement to be more focused and play the game the right way. So it's a confidence builder that the Braves were able to take 2 out of 3 from Arizona, and then of course sweep the Mets, and they're feeling really good right now. One of my favorite quotes from The Natural, losing is a disease, right? It's catchy, and I think you're seeing that from the Mets right now, and in a way, I think you were seeing that a little bit on the Braves end of things in May, and yet winning is also super contagious, especially on the offensive side of things, and you're seeing that from the Braves right now too, and that's really the Braves team that we've known in 2021 and 2022. All right, so obviously a lot of positive things that we can look at, but I do still want to analyze the Braves just in terms of, are there any, with all this winning recently, are there any cracks in the armor that we should still be concerned about? I do think the bullpen is still, it's less of a concern, right? And they're starting to turn things around, but let's look at the bullpen just a little bit more. Number one, I do want to give Chavez a lot of credit. He has pitched his butt off this season in a way that is, at 39 years of age, he might be having his best season ever. So, he is in his 15th or 16th year in the major leagues, which in and of itself is incredibly impressive. But guys, right now he is pitching to a 1.67 ERA. He's averaging 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, which is way over his career averages, which I'll go into here in a second. He's already earned a 0.7 wins above replacement, which it's hard to get much WAR as a reliever. If you're getting 1.5 or 2 WAR, you're having an elite season. So that's basically where he is right now in 29 appearances. So compare those numbers to his career. He's a career 4.33 ERA, 8.25 Ks per 9. So he's definitely striking out guys at a way higher clip. He's only earned 7.7 WAR for his career, and he actually, a good portion of that, he had 2 or 3 years in which he was a starter, and of course starters have opportunity to earn more WAR, which he did in those. So even with that, he's only averaged about a half WAR per season for his career, and he's already at 0.7. He only has 2 seasons, 2 full seasons in which he's gotten at 1 WAR or higher as a reliever. So this is just an awesome year for Chavez. Is there going to be some regression? I think there has to be, just, natural regression, but hopefully he's found something here late in his career, and he actually is walking guys a little more, striking out guys a little more. So it's I don't know that he's doing much different, but there's been something that's been just a little more impressive for him and more effective for him this season. He's obviously been huge. There was still a point in the season where I would get nervous when he comes in, because he's only throwing 89, but guys don't square him up very often. And he gets a lot of takes and a lot of swings and misses, especially off of that cutter. So hopefully he'll continue to be a guy. To me, he's better suited for a 6th or 7th inning role, but occasionally he comes in big moments in the 8th, and he's still been effective. So that's been huge for the Braves basically all season. A.J. Minter is also looking a lot better, guys. In his last 7 appearances, 5 1/3 innings, no earned runs, no hits, and only 1 walk and 6 strikeouts. And even if you just watch him, if you didn't know those numbers, I'm noticing him bounce off the mound more. It's like his confidence is very obviously back. He feels good about stuff. His cutter's moving better. It seems like his fastball is maybe 1 or 2 miles an hour better. I don't know if that's actually true, but he just looks super confident out there now, like he has figured it out. That's huge for the Braves and for that bullpen. Everything just lines up better when you can put Minter usually in the 8th inning. So, if you're really analyzing the bullpen, this is how I break it down, guys. So I did the trusted and non-trusted. That's how I'm breaking down the guys in the bullpen for the Braves. In my trusted category, I have Chavez, Anderson, Iglesias, Minter, and McHugh. McHugh occasionally can waver, but for the most part, he's been really good. So those are my 5. My non-trusted right now are Jimenez, Yates, and Tonkin. Tonkin's just getting back, so I'm going to give him some leeway there. Just has been impressive, the fact that he was able to make the team and has pitched as well as he has. But like I said, he did give up 2 runs in last night's game. So that being said, as of right now, I don't necessarily feel super great when Tonkin comes in the game, and that's true of Yates and Jimenez. I will say Jimenez has been super inconsistent this season, but probably has the highest ceiling of those 3 guys. I think he has the potential of figuring it out, flipping the switch, and moving more into that trusted role, but he has a long way to go to do that. But he had a good outing last night, so hopefully, this guy throws 95, 96 and has really good stuff, so hopefully he can figure it out. Kirby Yates is the guy that I kind of have the least amount of trust in. His stuff is good, and remember, he was one of the best relievers in baseball for a couple of years until he had Tommy John surgery. He's still coming back from that, and they do say that command is the last thing to show up, and that's definitely true for Yates. The stuff is there, the command is not. He'll walk too many guys and then occasionally leave a ball in the middle of the plate and get hurt, and that's not a great recipe for success. So by the end of the year, could he be good? Yeah, maybe. I just wonder, the Braves are paying about $5 million this year. That's a lot for a reliever, but this is his last year under contract. I think they have a buyout, but I do wonder if he's still struggling by the trade deadline, if the Braves might make a decision on Yates. I still think they are one really good bullpen guy away. I think that it's likely Anthopoulos goes out to get a guy near the trade deadline. And if that happens, I think one of these 3 non-trusted guys are going to lose out of a roster spot. But obviously a lot has to happen between now and then. We'll see if any of them steps up and starts pitching a little better. But generally speaking, guys, I do think the bullpen is getting better as a whole, and this is going to play huge dividends for the Braves making a nice little run here. The other thing that I mentioned before that I'm still seeing is the power and strikeout, stuff that most of the Braves hitters bring to the table versus situational hitting. Most of the Braves offensive guys are going to bring power but are going to bring a pretty high strikeout rate. You have very few guys in the lineup on a day-to-day basis that are more situational or capable of good situational hitting. Smoltz, I thought, made a good point in the third game broadcast. He said in October, you have to make enough contact to impact the game. And the Braves got hot and were able to do that in 2021, right? They brought power and not as much strikeout. And I think that's very true. It's potentially something that could really come back to bite you in October. You actually kind of saw that in 2022 when the Braves got bumped out. So it's not that the current roster can't do that, right? But I don't think they're particularly set up for guaranteed success in October, right? They can do it, and I think each of the guys can make adjustments, and we've already seen that, and that they're making some adjustments and improving that part of their game. But I do think it's something to pay attention to, and I do wonder if there might be a move also in the trade deadline for Anthopoulos to add one guy to the lineup who is more capable of doing that. I think the 9th and 10th innings of last night's game, the 13-10 game for the Braves, is a little bit of a microcosm of the Braves offense, right? In the 9th inning, it goes strikeout. Again, you need one run, right? Strikeout, solo homer, strikeout, Acuna got a single, and then a fly out. And then the 10th inning, you starting with a guy on second base, you get Riley with a pop-up, and then a walk to d'Arnaud. So you have first and second, one out, but we've left that guy on second. Then you get a fly out. The runners don't move up. You're still at first and second, but then you win a game with a home run, right? So all's well that ends well, but obviously a situational approach or a better at bat from Austin Riley with no outs might have obviously benefited the team too, right? So it's not, obviously the Braves can win with power, and power impacts the game in a huge way, but you also have to make contact. It's kind of obvious that if you are not making contact and you're striking out, you're not impacting the game in any way. So there's a balance there, and there's a point where that pendulum can swing too far and you're striking out too much and you're not impacting the game enough. I think the number one guy to look at that the Braves have in the lineup that is that guy is Matt Olson, right? He leads the team in home runs, but his strikeout rate is super high. So let me go through the Braves and kind of the primary guys in their lineup and their home runs and strikeout rates, and you can just kind of see where they're at. Okay, so Matt Olson has 17 home runs and is at a 29.5% strikeout rate, almost 30%. That's really high. It's actually gotten a little better, but we know that Olson strikes out a lot. I'm going to keep bringing up Chipper in this one because he was making so many good observations for the Braves hitters last night. He just said that everything in Matt Olson's swing is long and extended, and because I think he said he has long levers, and because of that, you have more swing and miss, right? It's just naturally so. When everything is correct, this is when you get 460-foot home runs, right? So it can look really good, but he's also susceptible. And so he's always going to be a swing and miss guy. He's never going to be a 300 hitter. We don't necessarily, or we can't necessarily expect that from him. But that he can obviously improve that somewhat, but that's kind of who he is and probably who he's going to be. Ozzie Albies, 14 home runs. I always think, it's amazing that Albies has the second most home runs for the Braves, as small as he is. But anyways, he's gone on a nice little home run streak here. 14 home runs. Ozzie does not strike out a lot, 13.6%. So I'm giving you strikeout rate because I think it's one way to see poor situational hitting, but it's not the only way. You can kind of fail in that. I've told you guys, I think Ozzie's one of the worst situational hitters for the Braves, but he also comes up big in big moments like he did last night. So you kind of take what you get with that. But that being said, he doesn't strike out much. I think a lot of that is because he swings so aggressively early in the count. He doesn't get to the point where he strikes out a lot. Chipper's note on Ozzie last night was that he tends to lose the barrel from the left side more often. What I think he meant by that is he kind of drops the barrel and therefore pops out or swings and misses more often from the left side. He doesn't do that from the right side. Obviously, he did not lose the barrel on that last home run, so that was very good stuff. But I think that is true. We know that is true of Ozzie, that he's a better right-handed hitter. But nonetheless, yeah, he has a pretty good strikeout rate. Ronald Acuna is the most impressive on this. 12 home runs, 13.8% strikeout rate, but his walk rate is about 10.6. So he has a really close strikeout to walk ratio. That's a really good thing. Probably not surprising to you guys on that one. Sean Murphy with 12 home runs, 22.3% strikeout rate. That's probably right around his career average. He is going to strike out a little more often, and he also has a pretty long swing, so that's probably not surprising either. Marcell Ozuna, 12 home runs, 23.7% strikeout rate. You see a lot of these strikeout rates over 20%. Austin Riley, 11 home runs, 25% strikeout rate. Guys, Riley has always had a pretty high strikeout rate. I feel like that's a little high for him, but he's also getting back into things in a good way. So I expect this to continue to improve. Chipper's note on Riley last night. This wasn't surprising, but it's just worth repeating. When Austin is staying inside the baseball, and Chipper was saying, and focusing on the State Farm sign, which is the sign behind the Braves bullpen in right center field. If he's focusing on that instead of left center and pulling off the ball, this gives him longer to recognize pitches in and out of the zone, right? You're staying on the ball. You're not swinging just a, slight millisecond longer, and therefore you're able to recognize those pitches like the sliders down in the zone away and, staying on the baseball. So again, 4 for 5 last night, and he was clearly doing that, and hopefully he's just going to continue to do that. And I think we are in line for a Austin Riley hot streak here, and hopefully a lot more home runs from him. But when he does that, I think he does become a better situational hitter as well. He had the pop up in the big moment in the 10th inning last night, but I like him a lot better in those moments when he's staying on the ball. All right, Eddie Rosario is one of the most hilarious hitters in baseball. I don't mean that disparagingly. He's a swing and miss no matter what guy, in the most extreme way. I mean, 8 home runs, 25.3% strikeout rate, which is high for him career-wise, and only, guys, a 3.5% walk rate. And you see this play out in the game, right? At one point, he had a 3-1 count. He swings at a ball way out of the zone because he's getting so super aggressive. He gets in these modes where he's just going to swing no matter what, and the pitcher knows it, and he chases these balls. So, Eddie is also a really clutch hitter, as we know, late in the games, but he can give you some really bad at-bats as well. All right, Orlando Arcia, 5 home runs, 17.8% strikeout rate. That's pretty good. Michael Harris, 3 home runs, 25.2% strikeout rate. We know Harris's struggles, so these numbers are a little tough to analyze because you're just hoping they're going to get way better. Chipper's note on Harris, because he's been working with him a lot lately, and Chipper was basically saying that they've fixed the mechanical issues that Harris had early in the season. He was missing balls, popping them up or swinging through them. Now, and you definitely see this when you watch Harris, he swings and misses out of the zone a lot, which is not good. So Chipper basically said, now it is really about pitch recognition for Harris and not swinging at balls out of the zone, right? And so we know that's true of a good hitter. Good hitters swing at strikes, and they don't swing at balls. And you'll see Harris swing at balls a good bit. Right now, he's not missing the strikes as much, right? And so that's good, but I think that's still something that he can improve more and more. And once he does that, I think he's going to be an elite hitter again. All right, and then finally, Travis d'Arnaud, only 2 home runs on the season, but a 17.3% strikeout rate. All right, so I go through all of that, and I wanted to give you guys, just like the bullpen, I'm going to give you my most trusted situational hitters for the Braves. And what I really mean by situational is they make consistent contact. They have good bat control to hit the ball in the right spots needed in certain moments, right, to move a runner over. So a sac fly or hitting the ball to second baseman to move the runner over to third, that sort of thing. So my number one guy is Ronald Acuna. He has a higher strikeout percentage, or sorry, a higher walk percentage, a lower strikeout percentage, and Acuna is really good, especially in these moments of staying inside the baseball, cutting down on his swing. You'll see him in these moments hit the ball the other way a lot more. And of course, he's hitting 338 or whatever he is. So he's going to get more hits in these moments as well. d'Arnaud is actually my number 2 guy. Good bat control, goes the other way naturally. Another Chipper Jones note from the game last night is that d'Arnaud's base swing is the other way. His most comfortable swing is the other way. And we do see him come through a lot in big moments with base hits and going the other way. So I like d'Arnaud in those situational moments. Riley is actually my number 3. Even though he didn't come up big last night in that one moment, he still has, a penchant for striking out some. But when he's going good like he is right now, I still like him a lot to stay inside the baseball, go the other way a little bit more. And then RC is my next guy. He's kind of on the fence for me. He's had much better. I think why he's hitting over 300 this year is he's not, going all out for the home run. Even though he hit one last night, it was a nice, easy swing. So that's good. But he's more of a guy that just hits the ball where it's pitched, which is an excellent way to get hits. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going to have great bat control to put the ball where you want it. So those are my guys. The other guys, I don't feel great about when they come up in situational moments. But I will again just repeat, Eddie Rosario and Ozzie Albies, while they are not great situational hitters, they are really good in the clutch, right? 8th, 9th inning, you want those two coming up in big moments. We know that. They are ridiculously clutch players. So they're, you take the good with the bad sometimes with these guys. So at what position could the Braves maybe add another situational hitter? Honestly, I think left field is the only option. And as hot as Rosario has been as of late, he had that huge grand slam in Arizona. Guys, he's still at a 0.0 WAR for the season. He doesn't give you a lot defensively, though he has been better this year. But that super low walk rate, that high strikeout rate, it's what he's doing right now hasn't really made up for it. So you're not seeing a ton of impact from him on a day-to-day basis. He'll have these big spikes where he's helping you a lot, and then he'll have moments where he's not doing much for you. So I do think, Rosario, this is probably his last year as a Brave, not guaranteed, but it makes the most sense that if the Braves wanted to impact their lineup at the trade deadline, that they would go for left field. And I like Eddie. I'm not saying that the Braves should dump him. I mean, he's a very useful guy, especially on the bench and especially in big clutch moments. So I don't think I don't think his playing time would go down to nothing, but I do think that's where the Braves could impact themselves the most. Of course, you also have Kevin Pillar, who's played really good, but he crushes lefties, doesn't do as much against righties. So I don't know that he would be your go-to for an everyday position. Maybe so, and maybe he would give you. He hasn't had a lot of at-bats against righties, so if you did go to him in an everyday situation, maybe he would just be a better day-to-day option than Rosario, but I'm not necessarily advocating for that. We'll see how it goes. I think the Braves are going to play it as they have been up to the trade deadline and then kind of see where they go from there and who's available. I probably will talk a little bit more about some guys the Braves could target in another episode, but we're pretty far from the trade deadline and from the Braves probably doing something on that one. All right, guys, so I want to end you by previewing our next game. I'm actually delivering this podcast Monday afternoon, early afternoon, and we are going to see the Braves play the Nationals next. And the big moment is in game 1 of this series. A.J. Smith-Shawver is making his first start of his career, the 20-year-old rookie for the Braves against the Nationals. So the big question is, can Smith-Shawver continue to show great fastball command, a dominant fastball? We saw it play out in his first outing against Arizona in a relief appearance. His fastball was great. His slider was so-so. So, if you're starting and going through a lineup 2 or 3 times, that's obviously a little more challenging for a pitcher. So can he go 5 or 6 innings, give up maybe 3 or fewer runs in this outing? That would be awesome to see. It's benefiting him to go against the Nationals. They obviously don't have a super strong offense. That's an understatement. But the Nationals have played better baseball than I think a lot of people expected this season. They're 11 games under 500. They are last in the division, but playing much better baseball than they did last year. He goes up against Josiah Gray. Gray is, a talented young pitcher, but kind of weird in the numbers. Gray has a 3.06 ERA, so just by that, he looks like a really, really good pitcher. If you dive into the numbers at all, you see that he has a really high walk rate, a fairly low strikeout rate, and that generally is a really bad recipe for a pitcher. So I think he's got out of a lot of struggles with ground balls. But you go through his last several starts, you're seeing 3 walks, 4 walks. He even had one with 6 walks. And so I think the Braves need to be patient, get some guys on base, and maybe hit some home runs against this guy. The Braves have had a lot of success against Gray lately. They have a lot of home runs off of him. If you go up and down the lineup, a lot of guys have at least 1 home run off of him for their career. Rosario and Riley are the 2 guys that have kind of struggled mostly against Gray. So we'll see what happens, obviously, in this game. But it's probably an opportunity for the Braves to put up runs as long as they're patient and not grounding into too many double plays against Josiah Gray. So, man, it would be awesome if the Braves can just keep this thing rolling. They're feeling really good with the Nationals coming into town. If they can at least take 2 out of 3 against the Nationals, this is a stretch for them, guys, with a lot of winnable games. You go Nationals, then Tigers, and then Rockies. And the Braves ought to really take advantage of that. I mentioned to you guys at the beginning of June that it felt like this could be a stretch of a lot of wins for the Braves simply because of who they were going up against. And now that we see them sweep the Mets, I feel that much better about where they are as a team. So, all right, guys. Well, that is it. I hope you enjoyed this episode of State of the Braves. I'm really looking forward to continuing to see the Braves play some winning baseball and just keeping this thing rolling. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later.